Hello everyone and welcome to my guide to Mutants! Mutants is an archetype that was released all the way back in 2020 in Phantom Rage, a set that introduced a lot of really good archetypes, included but not limited to Tri-Brigades, Virtual World, oh god, the Big Zeus guy, Divine Arsenal, Wipe the Field guy. Hellfire the Master of Beasts is also there. Pranking's Miamu, which for some reason we still don't have in Duel Links, support for Raid Raptors and Femton Knights, and of course, Penguin Brave. Needless to say, it kind of flopped in the TCG. It was a TCG exclusive archetype that failed to have an impact on the metagame, which, when you look at the top decks at the time, it kind of makes sense. But is Duel Links the proper home for such a lackluster archetype as was the case with Gaia a couple of years ago? Let's find out. Main deck monsters. Okay, so the main deck mutant monsters are divided in two categories. We have the low-level starters and the high-level boss monsters. Usually I'd start with the low-level starters, but it's important to take a look at the high-level guys first so you get a proper understanding of what you're trying to accomplish with this archetype. Mutant Beast is a level 8 of Beast Machine. I said Beast Machines. Jesus Christ, I'm so Transformers pilled. Of Beast Monster, with the following effects. It can be special summon except with the effect of a mutant card, but it can still be normal summoned or set, so keep that in mind. It can be targeted by monster effects, which is great, you know, that covers stuff like Nightmare Unicorn, but it can still be affected by them, so Dengetsu is still a problem. If your opponent activates a spell or effect, you get to banish a card from your hand or field in order to negate that spell or effect. And when it is destroyed by an opponent's card, either by battle or card effect, you get to retrieve a banished mutant trap, put it in your hand. Mutant Beast provides us with the template of what a mutant high-level monster is going to look like, which is to say it's always going to be level 8, it's always going to have some sort of immunity, it's always going to retrieve something when it's destroyed, and it's always going to interact with a specific type of cards, though only Beast offers actual negation. It's a pretty cool card, I really like this guy. Mutant Arsenal is the second level 8, it is a fire machine monster that has the same summoning requirements as Beast, which is to say can be special summoned except with a mutant card, and this one is protected against targeting trap cards. When your opponent activates a monster effect, you basically get to banish one monster on the field in exchange for banishing a card from your hand or field, which doesn't have to be the monster that activates its effect, by the way. So it's not actually like Draco Berserker's effect. Oops. And this one on destruction gets you back a spell card. I'll just say now Arsenal is the biggest level 8 monster that we have access to, so keep that in mind for later. Mutant Mist is a wind spellcaster. Somehow, this one also has the same requirements. It cannot be the target of spells that are very relevant in this metagame, such as Book of Moon, and that's it. And if your opponent activates a trap or effect, you get to banish a card from your hand or field to draw 2 cards! And this one gets you back a mutant monster when it is destroyed from banishment. It gets you the mutant monster back from banishment. All 3 of these monsters still serve a unique purpose in the deck, but not all of them were created equal. So as far as ratios go, Beast is the best one. You want to play from 1 to 2 copy of it. Arsenal is decent. A single copy should be enough. And Mist is the least good one. Let's just say that if you were to be playing this archetype, you wouldn't missed him. That doesn't work as a joke. Now for the low level guys, starting with Mutant M05. On summon, this guy gets you a mutant monster from your deck to your hand. That's why it's called M05, because the M stands for monster. And it can tribute itself and banish a card from your hand in order to summon a monster from your hand or deck based on the type of card that you banished. This effect is shared across all but one of the low level mutant monsters. And it always gets the same thing, so I've prepared a quick cheat sheet for you. Basically, if you want to summon Mutant Beast with a low-level mutant monster, you're gonna have to banish a monster from your hand or field. If you want to summon Mutant Arsenal, you're gonna have to banish a trap card, and if you want to summon Mutant Mist, you're gonna have to banish a spell card. One of the reasons why Beast is also the best of the bunch is because it is much easier in this archetype to banish monsters, because you have more ways to make use of the monsters that you banish, other than the trap and spells that maybe you'd rather keep them. The next low-level mutant monster is Mutant ST46, and this one is basically the same thing, except it gets you a spell or a trap on summon, ST for spell trap, but the other effect is exactly the same, so there you go. Next up is Mutant JB88. This one doesn't work quite like the other ones. It can special summon itself during your opponent's main phase, but only if you control the field spell, which we're going to talk about later. And when it is special summoned during your opponent's turn, not necessarily by its turn effect, you can tribute it, banish a card from your hand to special any level 8 mutant monster that is banished or in your graveyard. Which is to say, you get it from G, which is the graveyard, or B, which is the banishment. Did I say JB or GB? Oh god, I'm gonna have to pretend that I didn't notice this in the edit. Mutant is a piece of support that came later on, that wasn't originally released in Phantom Rage. I think that was an OCG card too, which is weird because we actually had to wait in order to get in TCG. This one specials itself if you already control a mutant card. Not just a monster, just a mutant card, which is pretty cool. And it has the same effect as MO5 or ST46, except this one also allows you to banish a card from your hand or your deck in order to get a high level mutant monster at the additional cost of losing the life points equal to the attack of the monster that you're trying to summon. Which in Duel Links, that's at least going to be 24,000, which is more than half of your starting life points. Uh-oh. All three of the monsters that easily summon another mutant high level monster are super important for you to play, so I recommend that you play 3 copies of all of those. For what it's worth, it's also important to know that all of them are psychic water monsters, which is going to be relevant later. Almost forgot about this little guy. This little guy ain't so great. You can play 1 copy if you'd like, but most likely you're not gonna play any. Extra deck! Mutant Synthesis is our first fusion monster in this archetype. Its summoning requirements are 2 mutants with different attributes, and since all the low-level mutant monsters are water, that means you're gonna have to use at least 1 high-level mutant monster. On summon, you get to target and pop a card, which means it's pretty cool if you get to summon this during your opponent's turn. Wink wink. If your opponent activates an effect, you can make Synthesis immune to the type of card that this effect deactivated that it was. Okay, so if they activate a monster effect, Synthesis become immune to monster effect for the rest of the turn. If they activate Dark Hole, you can make it immune to spells. You get the idea. And if it is destroyed, you get to retrieve any of your banished mutant cards. It's a pretty cool monster. It's an important part of a disruption. I really like this guy. And the final boss monster for this archetype is Mutant Ultimus, which requires 3 high-level mutant monsters as fusion materials, which is a bit much, but in exchange you basically have to get the Mekaba effect, which is to say, when a card or effect is activated, you can banish a card of the same type to negate the activation and banish that card. But unlike Mekaba, you don't have to discard a card of the same type, you can just banish a card from your field, or hand, or even graveyard, which is pretty dope. And on destruction, this guy gets you back up to 3 of your banished mutant cards, but only 1 of each type. And this is the big bad baddie of this archetype, and I also love it. I just love this entire archetype, to be honest. As far as ratios go, you're not too likely to summon multiple Ultimi during a duel, but Synthesis is super important, so my recommendation is that you play at least 2 Synthesis and at most 2 Ultimi. Spells and traps. We start with the Mutant field spell mentioned on GB88, Mutant Evolution Lab. On activation, it allows you to revive a banished low-level mutant, which is pretty dope. You can also summon 1 from hand, but it's better to get a banished one for obvious reasons. It also gives mutant monsters 100 attack for each of your banished mutant cards with different names, which also is somewhat relevant. And during your main phase, you get to put a mutant monster from your hand on the bottom of your deck to draw a card, which not the most consistent effect out there, but it can help sometimes, especially since you'd rather not have the high-level mutant monsters in your hand since you can summon them from deck. This field spell is pretty good. It's a starter, it's an attack boost, it's a way to unbreak your hand. What more can you ask for? We don't play any copies of it. But I'll explain why later. Mutant Fusion is, surprise surprise, a fusion spell that allows you to fusion summon a mutant fusion monster from your fusion deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your fusion hand, fusion field. But if your opponent has activated a card or effect this turn, you can also use up to one fusion material from your deck and or fusion graveyard as fusion materials, and you can only fuse with Mutant Fusion once per fusion turn. Believe it or not, this is not even our main fusion spell. Can you believe that? You can play 1 to 2 copy of it. I think 1 is more than enough. Mutant Blast is an equip spell, and I should really stop reading there. You can only equip it to your high level mutant monsters and allows you to banish a monster that battles with it at the start of the damage step, which is certainly one of the effects of all time. And you can also tribute your high level mutant monster by sending this card to the banishment in order to special summon a level 8 mutant monster with a different attribute from your hand or deck. Which, that's not the worst type of effect out there, but it'd be so much better if it was on a quick play. I don't recommend playing any copies of this. Now for the trap card, starting with Mutant Expansion. On activation, it allows you to get one of your low level starters and put it in your hand or special summon it, which is actually kind of weird for a continuous trap to have. And it can banish itself from the field in order to protect your level 8 or higher mutant monsters from being destroyed by a card effect. Expansion is okay. It's not necessarily a card that you want to see in multiples, but I guess one copy can hurt. It's a decent enough card. Then we have another fusion card, Mutant Cry. During the main phase, Mutant Cry allows you to fusion summon a mutant fusion monster by shuffling cards from your field, graveyard, or banishment. It being a trap card means it's a key disruption piece. Your objective with this is to try and summon Mutant Synthesis during your opponent's turn so you can immediately pop a card, which, well, that actually sounds not that great. But that's the archetype. Play at least 2 copies of this bad boy. And last but not least, we have the continuous trap Mutant Clash. So on activation, you get to target an effect monster your opponent controls and banish a mutant from your graveyard to negate its effect until the end of the turn. Which, that's not all that impressive. But also, if your level 8 or higher mutant monster destroys an opponent monster, you draw a card. Which, also not the greatest. Clash is not the worst card out there, even for this archetype. I wouldn't personally be playing it, but give it a try if you want. Skill. Mutant have their own personal dedicated skill, Mutant Hazard. Let's read it together. You can only use this skill's second and third effect once per duel. Is this really the type of skill that needed a once per duel clause? I mean, have you seen Dragonic Contact? At the beginning of your first turn, you get to set 1 Mutant Evolution Lab from inside of your deck. See, we get the field spell for free. That's why we're not putting it in the deck, because we just get it for free. Why did they release it in Duel Links if we're just gonna give it for free? During all of your turns, you can't normal special except mutant monsters, excluding specials from the extra deck, but you can summon Nibiru on your opponent's turn, which certainly is something. This is kind of annoying because it prevents us from experimenting with other archetypes that like getting their stuff banished, like Thunder Dragons or Metaphys. What can you do? Now for the actual effect. Place 1 mutant card from your hand on the bottom of your deck, then draw a card. That's literally just what the field spell does. But now you can do it twice, I guess. If only your opponent controls a monster, choose 2 mutant cards from your deck and add one of those to your hand and send the other to the graveyard. So that's pretty good consistency boosting. I guess it also sets you up for a potential fusion play if need be. Yeah, that's certainly one of the skill effects of all time. Honestly, this skill is kind of lackluster, compared to the stuff like Predaplants or Shadows or Despia have been getting, archetypes that were much more popular in the TCG. Except Predaplants, if we're completely honest. It's kind of disappointing that all mutants are getting is this. Here's a cool combo that you should know. I guess you start the duel with your field spell face down, right? Don't activate it right away. What you want to do is normal summon MO5. With its effect, you get SC46. Then you tribute the O5 and banish the SC46 in order to summon Mutant Beast in your deck. Then you activate your field spell, which in turn will allow you to special back the SC46 from banishment, allowing you to use its effect in order to get a Mutant Cry. From this point forward, you can either tribute the SC46 in order to summon another high-level mutant from deck. I'd recommend keeping the Mutant Cry and setting it in order to have the synthesis available during your opponent's turn. And that's what your deck does. This combo also works with Mutants, since you can banish from deck, you can banish a low-level Mutant starter and bring it back with Evolution Lab, which is really cool. Mutant is just a cool card in general. It's kind of a shame that both Emergency Teleport and 1-for-1 are limited 1 to this day, which means you have to pick one of them to play, and it's probably going to be E-Tally. But at the same time, I understand. It would be completely bonkers if you could play these cards alongside Hippo Carnival of all things. Strengths and weaknesses of this archetype. On the plus side, mutants have access to a lot of disruption. All things considered, you got Beast, you got Arsenal, you got your Cry into Synthesis. And if you manage to make it into Ultimus, you're basically set for the rest of the game. Our skill does give us a bit more consistency and draw power, especially if we're going second, which in turn means that we can afford to play more tech cards compared to our engine stuff without being too concerned about bricking. And last but not least, I think it's super fun to play. It's one of these archetypes that I really enjoy, but that's just me either. On the negative side, this is a deck that really doesn't like getting Veilered on its starters, because if you get Veilered, then you can't even tribute the starters in order to summon a high level guy, so you basically just have to pass here and there and hope that the rest of your hand is good enough to prevent you from dying. All things considered, the ceiling on this deck is pretty low compared to what the rest of the meta can do. Like, you could either be playing Mutants, where you get to summon Synthesis on your opponent's turn and pop a card, or you can play Despia, where you get to summon the first Dark Lords on your opponent's turn and pop every card. And last but not least, this skill is not really doing us any favors. You know, it's not one of these busted skill, and even worse than that, it prevents us from playing all the better archetypes. Because we don't rely too much on our extra deck, we could have been playing Dogmaticas, but now we can't. Like I mentioned before, we can also not play Thunder Dragons or Metaphys, the former of which was an actual thing that people play. It was mostly just Colossus though, let's be honest. All in all, how good is this archetype? Does it have a chance in the current metagame? It's not gonna break the format. It's not gonna do much in Duel Links either. I'm sorry everyone, but I think this one is a bust. But on the plus side, one of the archetypes that I really like finally got released into Duel Links, so that's something pretty cool. And despite everything, the power ceiling of Duel Links is still lower than the power ceiling of like Master Duel or the TCG, so instead of losing 99% of my games playing this archetype, I can now lose only 80%. What I'm trying to say is, I really look forward to playing Mutants in Duel Links. Eventually. Thank you all for watching this video. I do hope that you enjoyed it and that it was helpful to you. If it was, make sure to like this video, comment what was your favorite part of it, and subscribe if you haven't already. If you'd like to support me further, you can check out my Ko-fi, where you can make a one-time donation or a monthly pledge, or become a channel member. I would like to thank my Ko-fi donators in the forms of Dingust, Boy0, Jimmy, Zinnia, Yannick, Sile, Mark Lou, Fortuneless16, The Abyssactor Guru, Hulk Price and Exorcist, and I would like to thank my YouTube members in the forms of Sternay, Crimson Reaper 5, Troy Bolton, Genius Wannabe, and Seal Lelouch. Thank you all for the support. And that's it, that's the Mutants guide. There's no future card supporting this archetype anytime soon, so that's all we're gonna get. It doesn't get any better than this. Oh boy. Thank you all for watching once again, take care everyone, I will see you all next time.